Princess Zara stood in front of the tall mirror in her chambers. Her silver skin caught the light from the twin suns outside. She wore the traditional wedding dress of her people, covered in blue crystals that sparkled like stars. Today was her wedding day, but she felt no joy in her heart. The Velthari Empire was the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Her people had ruled for thousands of years. They were known for their art, their music, and their wisdom. They never fought wars anymore. They did not need to. Everyone feared their technology and respected their culture. But now things were changing. New species were spreading across the stars. One of them was called humanity. These humans had appeared only 50 years ago. They came from a small blue planet far away. The Velthari Council said humans were primitive but ambitious. They had basic ships and simple weapons. They knew nothing of true culture. Zara's father, the Emperor, wanted an alliance with the humans. The humans controlled several resource-rich systems that the Empire needed. A marriage would seal the bond between their people. Zara, as the youngest princess, was chosen for this duty. She had never met a human before. The report said they were strange-looking, with flat features and hair growing from their heads. They lived short lives, barely 100 years. They ate dead animals and had only recently developed faster than light travel. To Zara, they seemed almost barbaric. Her attendant, a kind older woman named Lyra, entered the room. "Your Highness, it is time. Your father waits in the Great Hall." Zara took a deep breath. She was a princess of the Velthari. She would do her duty no matter what she felt inside. She followed Lyra through the crystal corridors of the palace. Everything around her was beautiful and peaceful. She wondered if she would ever feel at home again after marrying this human stranger. The Great Hall was filled with nobles from across the empire. Their skin colors ranged from silver to deep blue. They wore expensive robes and jewels. At the front of the hall stood her father on his throne. Next to him was a human man. Zara stopped walking for a moment. The human looked different than she expected. He was tall, perhaps as tall as a Velthari male. His skin was tan like sand in sunlight. He had short dark hair and clear blue eyes. He wore a simple uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. It was plain compared to the elaborate clothes around him, but somehow it suited him. As Zara walked down the long aisle, the human watched her. His face was calm and respectful. When she reached the front, he gave a small bow. It was the correct greeting in Velthari custom. At least he had learned their basic manners. "Princess Zara," her father said in their language. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Human Federation. He will be your husband." Jake spoke, and to Zara's surprise, his words were in perfect Velthari. "It is an honor to meet you, Your Highness. I hope we can build a friendship between our peoples." His voice was deep and steady. Zara nodded politely. "The honor is mine, Commander." The ceremony began. The high priest spoke the ancient words. Zara and Jake repeated the vows. They drank from the shared cup. They exchanged the crystal rings. Through it all, Jake remained calm and proper. He never looked uncomfortable or confused. He knew every step of the ceremony. When it was done, they were husband and wife. The nobles applauded. Musicians played the traditional wedding songs. A feast was prepared in the grand dining hall. During the feast, Zara sat next to Jake at the high table. She tried to make conversation. "You speak our language well, Commander. How long did you study?" 2 years, Your Highness. I wanted to show proper respect to your culture." 2 years? That is very fast. Our language is difficult. Jake smiled slightly. "I had good teachers. And I believe in being prepared. Prepared for what?" "For any situation," he said simply. Zara found his answer strange but did not push further. She noticed that Jake ate carefully, using the correct utensils in the correct order. He drank the ceremonial wine at the proper times. He even knew which foods to avoid because they were only for royalty. Someone had trained him very well in their customs. As the evening went on, various nobles came to offer congratulations. They spoke to Jake with barely hidden contempt. To them, he was a primitive from a backward world. Jake remained polite to everyone, never showing anger or insult. Zara had to admit he had strong self-control. One noble, Lord Velmon, was particularly rude. "Tell me, Commander Morrison, is it true that humans still eat the flesh of dead creatures?" "We do have a varied diet, my lord," Jake answered calmly. "How primitive. And your ships still use chemical rockets for launch, do they not?" "We use several different technologies depending on the need." "Fascinating. Like children playing with toys. Velmon laughed. Others joined him. Zara saw Jake's jaw tighten slightly, but his voice remained steady. Every civilization has its own path, my lord. We learn from those who came before us. After Velmon left, Zara whispered to Jake, You do not have to accept such insults. Jake looked at her with those calm blue eyes. Words are just words, Your Highness. They cannot hurt me. I am here to build a bridge between our peoples, not to fight with your nobles. You are very patient. I have learned to be. Again, Zara felt there was more meaning in his words than she understood, but she was tired and wanted the long day to end. Finally, the feast concluded. Zara and Jake were shown to their new quarters in the palace. The rooms were large and beautiful, with windows overlooking the crystal gardens. There were 2 separate bedrooms connected by a shared sitting room. Zara was relieved. She was not ready to be close to this stranger even if he was now her husband. I will take the smaller room, Jake said. You should have the comfort of the larger space. That is kind of you. I want you to be comfortable, Your Highness. I know this marriage was not your choice. I will respect your space and privacy. Zara felt surprised by his words. Most men would demand their rights as a husband. But Jake seemed sincere. Thank you, Commander. That means much to me. Please call me Jake. We are married now. Titles seem unnecessary between us. Then you may call me Zara, but only when we are alone. Jake nodded. As you wish, Zara. That night, Zara lay in her bed thinking about her new husband. He was not what she expected. He was polite, educated, and respectful. He knew their culture better than some Velthari nobles, but there was something about him she could not understand. The way he moved was too smooth, too controlled. His eyes noticed everything, always watching, always aware. And his body, when she had briefly touched his hand during the ceremony, felt hard like stone. No diplomat should have hands that rough. She pushed the thoughts away. Perhaps humans were just naturally different. Perhaps their gravity was stronger, making them more dense. It did not matter. She would live her life as a princess, and he would live his life as a diplomat. They would be polite strangers sharing a home. That was enough. In the other room, Jake sat by the window, looking out at the peaceful city below. Everything was clean and beautiful. Crystal towers reached toward the stars. Gardens filled every open space. There were no walls, no defenses. The Velthari felt so safe in their power that they had forgotten to protect themselves. Jake had seen worlds like this before. Peaceful civilizations that thought their technology made them invincible. They were always shocked when reality arrived. He hoped the Velthari would never face that lesson. But in his gut, trained by years of experience, he felt something wrong. Peace never lasted forever. Someone always wanted what others had. He looked at his hands in the moonlight. They were calloused and scarred. Hands that had held weapons more than they had held pens. He was a soldier pretending to be a diplomat. The human government needed this alliance, so they sent their best officer, someone who could play the part while still being ready for anything. Zara seemed kind. She was doing her duty just like him. He hoped she would never have to see what he really was. He hoped she could stay in her peaceful world forever. But Jake had learned long ago that hope was not a strategy. He would stay alert. He would stay ready. Because when peace ended, as it always did, someone needed to know how to fight. The twin moons rose higher in the sky. The palace grew quiet. 2 people from different worlds tried to sleep in their new home, neither knowing that their lives were about to change forever. Neither knowing that the peace they took for granted was already beginning to crack. In the darkness of space, far beyond the Velthari system, ships were moving. Ships with weapons and soldiers. Ships that saw the ancient empire as weak and ripe for conquest. The Kryn collective had been watching and waiting. They had seen how soft the Velthari had become, and they had decided it was time to take what they wanted. But they did not know about Jake Morrison. They did not know what humans were capable of. They did not know that sleeping in the palace was a warrior who had fought in battles that would make their commanders weep. They were about to learn a very hard lesson about the new species in the galaxy. The storm was coming, and the alien princess would soon be shocked to discover that her husband was so much more than he appeared. 3 weeks had passed since the wedding. Zara had settled into a routine with her new husband. They ate breakfast together each morning, attended council meetings and social events together, and then spent their evenings in their separate rooms. It was polite and comfortable, like living with a respectful stranger. But Zara was beginning to notice strange things about Jake. Every morning, before the first sun rose, she would hear him leave their quarters. The first time it happened, she thought nothing of it. Perhaps he could not sleep in the different gravity or air. But it happened every single day. One morning, her curiosity won. She quietly followed him. Jake walked through the palace corridors with confident steps. He knew exactly where he was going. Zara stayed far behind, hiding in doorways and behind pillars. She felt foolish, like a child playing spy games, but something drove her to keep following. Jake left the main palace and went to the military training grounds. Zara watched from a hidden balcony as he entered the empty yard. The sun was just starting to light the sky. Jake removed his shirt and began to exercise. Zara stared in shock. Jake's body was covered in scars. Long white lines crossed his back and chest. Circular marks dotted his shoulders. A particularly nasty scar ran from his left rib cage down to his hip. These were not small accidents. These were serious injuries from violence. But more shocking than the scars was how Jake moved. He did push-ups until Zara lost count after 200. Then he did pull-ups on a high bar, his muscles working smoothly. He ran around the training ground at a speed that seemed impossible. He moved like a hunting cat, all controlled power and grace. After an hour, Jake stopped and sat in meditation. His breathing was calm and steady. Sweat covered his body, but he showed no sign of exhaustion. Zara quietly left before he could see her. Her mind was full of questions. At breakfast, Jake appeared fresh and clean, wearing his usual simple uniform. He smiled at Zara. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" "Yes, thank you." "And you?" "Very well. The morning exercise helps me start the day right." Zara wanted to ask about the scars, about why he trained so hard, about where he learned to move like that. But she said nothing. It seemed wrong to admit she had been spying on him. The next strange thing happened during a council meeting. The Velthari Emperor was discussing trade routes with various nobles. Jake sat quietly, as he always did. He rarely spoke during these meetings. The Emperor preferred it that way. Humans were guests, after all, not true members of the council. An aide entered and whispered something to the Emperor. The Emperor's face grew concerned. "It seems there has been a pirate attack on one of our merchant ships near the border systems. The ship was damaged but not destroyed. The pirates fled when patrol ships arrived." The nobles began discussing increased patrols and diplomatic complaints. Jake sat forward slightly in his chair. Zara saw his eyes sharpen, his body tense. "Your Majesty," Jake said quietly, "may I ask which border?" The Emperor looked annoyed at being interrupted. "The Kryn border, Commander Morrison." "Why do you ask?" "The Kryn have been moving military assets in that region. 3 new battle groups in the last month." Everyone turned to stare at Jake. The Emperor frowned. "How do you know this?" "Human ships pass through that area regularly. We track all military movements. It is basic security. The Kryn would not dare attack the Velthari Empire. They know our power." Jake's face remained neutral, but Zara saw something flash in his eyes. Frustration? Concern? "Of course, Your Majesty. I am sure you are right." The meeting continued. But Zara kept thinking about Jake's words. He had been tracking Kryn military movements. Why would a simple diplomat do that? And his voice, when he said basic security, held a tone that suggested the Velthari should be doing the same. That evening, Zara found Jake in their sitting room, reading from a data tablet. She sat across from him. "Jake, may I ask you something?" "Of course. What exactly did you do before you came here?" "I know you are a commander, but commander of what?" Jake set down his tablet. He looked at her carefully. "I commanded a frigate in the human defense fleet. The ship was called the Valkyrie." "A warship?" "Yes, a small one, but effective." "And before that?" Jake was silent for a moment. "I served in various positions in the military. Ground forces mostly." Special operations. "What does that mean?" "It means I did difficult jobs in dangerous places." His voice was gentle but firm. "Zara, I was a soldier. I still am a soldier. The human government asked me to come here because I have experience with diplomacy and protocol, but my training is in combat and warfare." Zara felt her understanding shift. "The scars on your body. They are from fighting." Jake looked surprised. "You saw those?" "I followed you one morning." "I am sorry. It was wrong of me." "It is natural to be curious about someone you live with." Jake's expression softened. "Yes, the scars are from combat. I have fought in many battles. That is not something most Velthari would understand. Your people have not known war in a long time. Why did the human government send a soldier to marry me? Because I can do both. Fight when needed and live peacefully when possible. They needed someone who would not embarrass humanity at your sophisticated court, someone who could learn your culture and represent us well, but also someone who understands that the galaxy can be dangerous. Zara thought about his words. You think we are in danger? You think the Kryn will attack? I think the Kryn are testing your borders. Pirate attacks are often the first step. They want to see how you respond. If you are weak, they will push harder. We are not weak. We have powerful ships and advanced weapons. Jake nodded slowly. You have excellent technology. But technology is not the same as fighting spirit. When was the last time any of your ships fired their weapons in real combat? Zara opened her mouth to answer but realized she did not know. I am not sure. Over 300 years ago, according to the historical records, your people have become peaceful. That is admirable, but predators can smell peace. It looks like weakness to them. And humans? You are not peaceful? Jake's smile was sad. No. We are very new to the stars, but we have fought each other for thousands of years on our home planet. We know war intimately. It is in our nature. We are trying to be better, to be like species such as yours, but we have not forgotten how to fight. Zara felt a chill. She had thought humans were primitive and simple, but now she wondered if they were something else entirely, something dangerous that had learned to wear a civilized face. Over the following days, Zara watched Jake more carefully. She saw how his eyes constantly scanned every room he entered. She noticed he always sat with his back to a wall facing the door. When they walked through the palace gardens, he knew every path and every exit. He moved through crowds with an awareness that seemed almost supernatural, always knowing who was around him. Once, during a formal dinner, a servant dropped a glass. It shattered on the floor with a loud crash. Every Velthari jumped in surprise, but Jake was already moving before the glass hit the ground. His hand had gone to his belt, where a weapon would normally hang. He stopped himself immediately and pretended to be adjusting his uniform. But Zara had seen the truth. His instincts were those of a warrior, always ready for danger. She also noticed how the palace guards looked at Jake. At first, they had been dismissive, seeing him as a weak human diplomat. But as they saw him each morning at the training grounds, their attitude changed. They began to show him respect. Some even asked him for advice on their techniques. Jake always helped them, showing them more efficient ways to move, better ways to hold their weapons. One guard captain, a veteran named Kethal, became particularly interested in Jake's knowledge. Zara overheard them talking one afternoon. Commander Morrison, your training is very different from ours, more aggressive, more focused on close combat. Different situations require different skills, Captain. Your people have not faced war in a long time. You train for ceremony and show. That is fine in peaceful times, but if war came...
Jake's voice became serious.
Then your guards would die quickly unless they remembered that combat is not about looking impressive. It is about survival. The enemy will not care about your honor or your technique. They will only care about killing you first. You sound like you have seen much combat. More than I wanted to. War is terrible, Captain. Never wish for it. But if it comes, you must be ready to do terrible things to protect those you love. Zara walked away from the conversation with a heavy heart. She had been raised to believe that civilization meant leaving violence behind. But Jake was showing her that sometimes violence was the only thing that kept civilization alive. That night, Zara could not sleep. She got up and walked to the window. Outside, the city sparkled under the moons. Everything was peaceful and beautiful. But for the first time, she saw how vulnerable it all was. No walls, no defenses. Just trust in their reputation and their technology. She heard a door open. Jake came into the sitting room, wearing simple sleep clothes. "Cannot sleep?" he asked. "No. Too many thoughts." Jake stood beside her at the window. "It is a beautiful city." "Yes. We have worked for thousands of years to build this peace. It is worth protecting." Zara looked at him. "You think something bad is coming." "You feel it," Jake nodded slowly. "I hope I am wrong, but my instincts have kept me alive for man." The alarm sirens woke Zara from sleep. She had never heard that sound before in her life. It was a deep, terrible wailing that made her blood run cold. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the palace. Jake burst into her room without knocking. He was already dressed in dark clothing, not his usual uniform. Zara, get up. We need to move now. What is happening? The Kryn, they are attacking. Multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace directly over the capital. They are landing troops in the city. Zara felt her world tilt. That is impossible. No one would dare attack Veltara Prime. They are doing it right now. Get dressed in something you can move in. No fancy clothes, hurry! Zara rushed to change, her hands shaking. Through the window she could see explosions in the sky. Velthari defense ships were being torn apart by Kryn weapons. The enemy was ruthless and efficient. Within minutes the orbital defenses were gone. Jake was at her door again. In his hands was a weapon, a human pistol. Where did you get that? I always have it. I am never unarmed. He checked the weapon with practiced movements. Stay close to me. Do not run ahead, do not fall behind. If I tell you to do something, do it immediately without question. Understand? Zara nodded, too scared to speak. They left their quarters. The palace was in chaos. Servants ran in panic. Guards shouted orders that no one followed. No one knew what to do. The Velthari had not fought a war in over 3 centuries. They had no experience with this kind of terror. Jake moved through the chaos like a shark through water. He was completely calm, his eyes constantly scanning. He led Zara through corridors she barely recognized. Where are we going? To the throne room. Your family will gather there. We need to consolidate defensive positions. Defensive positions? The palace guard will protect us. Jake's laugh was harsh. The palace guard trains for ceremony. They are about to face Kryn shock troops, professional soldiers who live for combat. It will be a massacre unless someone takes command. They turned a corner and found a group of palace guards standing in confusion. Their captain, Kethal, was trying to organize them. He saw Jake and his face showed relief. Commander Morrison, thank the stars. What should we do? Get your men to the throne room. Barricade the main corridors. Use furniture, statues, anything heavy. Create choke points where the enemy has to come at you from only one direction. Do you have weapons besides those ceremonial spears? We have plasma rifles in the armory. Get them. Hand them out to anyone who knows how to shoot. Move fast. The Kryn will breach the outer walls within minutes. Kethal hesitated. I should wait for orders from the Emperor. Jake's voice became hard. The Emperor has no experience with combat. I do. Every second you waste, more people die. Now move. The authority in Jake's voice was absolute. Kethal saluted and ran with his men. Zara stared at her husband. This was not the polite diplomat she had married. This was someone else entirely. Someone who commanded with natural authority and expected to be obeyed. They reached the throne room. The Emperor was there with other members of the royal family. Zara's brother, Prince Kiran, was pale with fear. Her father sat on his throne, trying to maintain dignity even as his world crumbled. Zara, thank the gods you are safe. The Emperor saw Jake and frowned. Commander Morrison, what is the situation? Your Majesty, the Kryn have destroyed your orbital defenses. They have landed at least 5,000 troops in the capital. They are advancing on the palace as we speak. We need to organize a defense immediately. A defense? The palace guard will handle this. With respect, Your Majesty, your guards are not prepared for this. I need to take tactical command of the defense if we want to survive the next hour. The Emperor stood angrily. You presume too much, human? You are a guest here, not a military commander. Jake's face remained calm, but his voice was ice. I am the highest-ranking military officer in this building. I have fought in battles that would give your guards nightmares. Right now you have 2 choices. Let me help or watch everyone you love die. Choose quickly. Before the Emperor could respond, an explosion rocked the palace. Stone and crystal rained from the ceiling. Screams echoed from the corridors. The sound of weapons fire grew closer. Jake pulled out a small device and spoke into it in human language. Valkyrie, this is Morrison. Situation critical. Request immediate tactical support, a voice responded. Jake, this is Ryan. We are in orbit but taking fire from Kryn destroyers. We can provide limited support. What do you need? Orbital strikes on Kryn landing zones. Send down every Marine you can spare. Target the heavy armor first, copy that. Marines are prepping for drop now. Hold on, brother. Jake switched back to speaking Velthari. Human reinforcements are coming, but we need to hold this position until they arrive. Captain Kethal, report. Kethal ran into the throne room with his guards. The Kryn have breached the east wing. They are killing everyone they find. We cannot stop them. Fall back to this room. Barricade the main entrance. Put your best shooters in elevated positions. Create overlapping fields of fire. I do not understand these terms, Jake swore in human language. Then he switched back. Just do what I tell you. You three, move that statue in front of the door. You five, get up on that balcony with your rifles. You 10, spread out behind the pillars. When the enemy comes through that door, you shoot everything that moves. The guards moved to follow his orders. They responded to Jake's confidence because no one else had any. The Emperor watched in shock as this human took control of his palace defenses. Jake turned to Zara. I need you to take your family to that back room. It is more protected. Stay away from windows. I want to stay with you. Zara, please. I cannot focus if I am worried about you. You are my husband. I will not hide while you fight. Jake looked at her, and for a moment something soft showed in his eyes. You are braver than I thought. But you have no training. You will be in danger. Then teach me. Give me a weapon. Show me what to do. Jake pulled a small knife from his boot. This is the only spare weapon I have. If an enemy gets close, you aim for the throat or under the arm where there is no armor. You strike fast and hard. Do not hesitate. Hesitation kills you. Understand? Zara took the knife. It felt heavy and wrong in her hand. But she nodded. The sound of fighting grew louder. Then the main doors exploded inward. Kryn soldiers poured through the opening. They were huge, covered in black armor, carrying weapons that looked designed for maximum destruction. Fire, Jake shouted. The palace guards opened fire. Plasma bolts filled the air. Several Kryn fell, but more kept coming. They returned fire with brutal efficiency. Guards screamed and died. The beautiful throne room became a war zone. Jake moved into the fight. He shot with his pistol, each bullet finding a target. But when he ran out of ammunition, he did not retreat. He dropped the pistol and picked up a fallen guard's plasma rifle. He fired in controlled bursts, always aiming for weak points in the Kryn armor. A Kryn soldier charged at Jake with a blade. Jake sidestepped, letting the enemy's momentum carry him forward. Then Jake brought the rifle down on the back of the soldier's neck. The Kryn fell. Jake took the soldier's blade and his sidearm. Now armed with both blade and gun, Jake became something terrible to watch. He moved through the battle like death itself. He shot enemies at range and stabbed those who got close. His movements were economical and brutal. Every action had a purpose. Every strike ended a life. Zara watched in shock. This was not warfare as she understood it. There was no honor, no ceremony, just violence and survival, and Jake was a master of it. A Kryn soldier broke through the line and ran toward the royal family. Zara saw him coming. Without thinking, she stepped forward with the knife Jake had given her. The Kryn raised his weapon. Zara threw herself forward and drove the knife into the gap in his armor at the throat, just like Jake had told her. The Kryn made a gurgling sound and fell. Zara stood over the body covered in alien blood, shaking with shock and adrenaline. She had just killed someone. She had taken a life with her own hands. Jake was at her side instantly. Are you hurt? I killed him. You survived. That is what matters. You did well. He pulled her behind a pillar. Stay here. Keep the knife ready. The battle continued. The Kryn kept coming. The palace guards were dying. Jake kept fighting, but even he could not hold back an entire army. He was just one man against hundreds. Then the ceiling exploded. Not from enemy fire, but from above. Human marines in powered armor crashed through the roof, dropping into the throne room like angels of death. They carried heavy weapons and wore armor that made the Kryn soldiers look small. Morrison, you still alive down there? One marine shouted in human language. Barely, Ryan. Good timing. Sorry we are late. Traffic was murder. The marines opened fire with devastating effect. Their weapons tore through Kryn armor. Their training was perfect. They moved as one unit, supporting each other, covering angles, destroying everything in their path. With the marines reinforcing them, the tide turned. The Kryn began to retreat. Jake coordinated the defense, speaking in rapid human language to the marines while giving orders to the Velthari guards. After 20 minutes of brutal fighting, the throne room was secure. Bodies lay everywhere, most of them Kryn. The beautiful crystal floor was covered in blood and scorch marks. The Emperor's throne was riddled with bullet. The palace medical wing was full of wounded. Velthari and human medics worked side by side, treating injuries from the battle. The halls that had once been filled with music and laughter now echoed with groans of pain and the sharp smell of medical chemicals. Zara sat in a quiet corner, still wearing her blood-stained clothes. She could not stop shaking. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the Kryn soldier falling, saw the life leave his eyes. She had taken a life. That fact repeated in her mind like a terrible song. Jake found her there. He had cleaned up and changed into fresh clothes, but he looked exhausted. He sat down beside her without speaking. For a long moment, they just sat in silence. "Does it get easier?" Zara finally asked. "The killing?" Jake's voice was quiet and sad. "No, it gets familiar, but never easy. Every life you take leaves a mark on your soul. The day it becomes easy is the day you stop being human. How many have you killed?" "I stopped counting a long time ago. Too many. Far too many." He looked at his hands. "I joined the military when I was 18 years old. I thought it would be about honor and protecting people. And it was, in a way. But it was also about blood and death and making impossible choices. Tell me about it. I need to understand who you really are." Jake was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. Then he began to speak. "Humanity reached the stars 50 years ago, but it was not peaceful exploration like your people had. We were running from a war on our home planet. Different nations and corporations fought for control. Millions died, but I did not know this. Most species do not. We keep our ugly history quiet. When we finally got to space, we thought things would be better. They were not. The corporations that funded the colony ships wanted to own the colonies. They wanted slaves, not free citizens. So we fought again." Jake's eyes became distant, remembering. "I was born on a colony called New Perth. It was a mining world, rich in resources. The Helix Corporation owned everything. They worked people to death in the mines. My father died when I was 12. Lung disease from the dust. My mother died 2 years later from the same thing. I was alone." Zara reached out and took his hand. Jake squeezed it gratefully. "When I was 16, the rebellion started. The colonies rose up against corporate control. It was a brutal war. The corporations had professional soldiers and advanced weapons. We had miners and farmers with stolen guns. But we had something they did not. We had nothing left to lose. You fought in this war?" "I did. I joined the resistance when I was 17. They taught me to fight, to kill, to survive. I was good at it, too good. By the time I was 20, I was leading raids behind enemy lines. By 23, I was commanding a battalion. By 25, I was one of the youngest officers in the resistance fleet." Jake stood and walked to the window, looking out at the damaged city. "The war lasted 12 years. 12 years of fighting and dying. We lost entire colonies. Billions of people died. But we won in the end. The corporations pulled back. Humanity became free. That is when your government formed? Yes, the colonies united to make sure no corporation could ever control us again. We built a military to protect ourselves, but we had no one to learn from. Every other species in the galaxy was peaceful by the time they reached space. Only humans came to the stars already knowing how to wage war." Zara stood and joined him at the window. "Is that why other species fear you?" "They do not fear us yet. They think we are primitive and barbaric. They see our simple ships and our violent history and they judge us, but they do not understand that our violence made us strong. Every human alive today is descended from survivors. People who fought impossible odds and won. It is in our blood. The Kryn learned that today." Jake's smile was grim. "The Kryn are warriors, but they fight for conquest and glory. Humans fight for survival. There is a difference. When you fight to survive, there are no rules, no honor. Only victory or death." Captain Keithall approached them, his arm in a medical sling. "Commander Morrison, the Emperor requests your presence in the war room." They followed Kethal through the damaged palace. Velthari workers were already beginning repairs, trying to restore beauty to the broken halls. But the scars of battle would take a long time to heal. The war room was a place Zara had never seen before. It was deep in the palace, protected by thick walls. Inside, holographic displays showed tactical information. The Emperor was there with his advisors. Human officers stood on one side, including the Marine commander who had dropped into the throne room. "Commander Morrison," the Emperor said, his voice formal but respectful, "I owe you an apology. I did not believe you about the threat. I thought you were paranoid. I was wrong. You saved many lives today." Jake bowed. "I was doing my duty, Your Majesty. I am only sorry that so many died before I could help. The Kryn have retreated for now, but our orbital defenses are destroyed. If they come back with a larger force, we cannot stop them." The Emperor looked old and tired. "I must ask for human assistance. Our pride has been our downfall. We thought ourselves invincible. We were fools. The human Marine commander stepped forward. He was a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes. Your Majesty, I am Commander Ryan Blake of the human frigate Valkyrie. Jake and I served together for many years. I can tell you honestly that you are lucky he was here. Most diplomats would have died in the first 5 minutes of that fight. I am beginning to understand that Commander Morrison is not a typical diplomat. Ryan laughed. Diplomat? Jake is one of the most decorated soldiers in human history. He has led missions that saved entire colonies. He has fought in battles that military academies now study. We sent him here because he is one of our best warriors, but also because he has the intelligence and education to move in royal circles. He is a rare combination of soldier and scholar. The Emperor looked at Jake with new respect. Why did you not tell us this? Because you would have feared me, Your Majesty. You would have seen me as a savage, a primitive human who only knew violence. I wanted to build trust first. I wanted you to see that humans could be civilized, but the galaxy did not give us time. One of the Velthari advisors spoke up. If you are such a great warrior, why did so many of our guards die? Why could you not save them all? Jake's face became hard. Because they were not trained for war. They were trained for show. They had beautiful armor and ceremonial weapons, but no real combat experience. When the Kryn came, they panicked. They broke formation. They forgot their training. That is not a criticism. That is just fact. Your people have not fought a real war in over 300 years. You cannot expect soldiers with no experience to fight like veterans. Then what do we do? The Emperor asked. How do we protect ourselves? You need to rebuild your military from the ground up. Not for show, but for war. You need to train your soldiers in real combat tactics. You need to accept that peace only lasts when you are strong enough to defend it. Ryan spoke up. The Human Federation is willing to help. We can send military advisors. We can help train your forces. And we can provide fleet support until your defenses are rebuilt. In exchange for what? An advisor asked suspiciously. In exchange for alliance. Real alliance, not just trade agreements. We protect each other. Share intelligence. Stand together against threats like the Kryn. The Emperor thought for a long moment. Zara could see the struggle on his face. Accepting human help meant admitting that the Velthari were no longer the dominant power they once were. It meant letting go of pride and accepting reality. Very well, the Emperor finally said. The Velthari Empire formally requests military assistance from the Human Federation. Let our people stand together. Jake and Ryan bowed. You honor us, Your Majesty. The meeting continued for hours, discussing strategy and logistics. Zara watched Jake work with the military planners. He was brilliant, seeing patterns and possibilities that no one else noticed. He spoke with authority, but also with respect for Velthari culture. He was the bridge between two worlds. Finally, the meeting ended. Jake and Zara returned to their quarters. The palace was quiet now, with guards at every entrance. The feeling of safety was gone, replaced by vigilance. In their sitting room, Zara poured 2 glasses of Velthari wine. She handed one to Jake. To survival. Jake clinked his glass against hers. To survival. He drank, then sighed deeply. I am sorry you had to see me like that. See what I really am, a warrior, a killer. That is the truth, Zara. I have killed so many people. Sometimes in battle, sometimes in cold blood when the mission required it. I am not a good man. I am a necessary one. Zara set down her glass and turned to face him fully. You saved my father. You saved my people. You fought when no one else could. How does that make you bad? Because I'm good at it. Because part of me enjoyed the fight. The challenge of it. The adrenaline. That part of me is dark and broken. I spent years trying to bury it, trying to be civilized. But today it came out again, and it always will when danger comes. Then I am glad for that dark part of you, because it kept me alive. Zara moved closer. Jake, you are my husband. I did not choose you, and you did not choose me. But fate brought us together. Maybe the universe knew we would need each other. You are teaching my people that strength is not about technology. It is about will. About refusing to give up. That is a lesson we desperately needed, Jackie. 6 months had passed since the Kryn attack. The palace had been rebuilt stronger than before. But more than the buildings had changed, the entire Velthari Empire was transforming. Zara stood in the training yard, breathing hard. Sweat covered her silver skin. Her muscles ached. Across from her, Jake held a training staff ready for another round. "Again?" he said. Zara groaned but lifted her own staff. She had been training every morning for 6 months now. Jake was a demanding teacher, never accepting less than her best effort. But she had learned so much. How to move efficiently, how to read an opponent, how to stay calm under pressure. She attacked using the combinations Jake had taught her. Strike high, fake left, sweep the legs. Jake blocked easily and countered. His staff tapped her ribs. "Dead, what did you do wrong?" "I telegraphed my sweep. My eyes gave it away." "Good. You are learning to see your mistakes. Try again." They sparred for another hour. Zara was improving, but Jake still won every match. When they finally stopped, Zara collapsed on a bench. "Will I ever beat you?" "Maybe in a few years. But remember, the goal is not to beat me. The goal is to survive a real fight. You have come far, Zara. 6 months ago, you could barely hold a weapon. Now you move like a fighter." Zara felt pride at his words. Jake rarely gave compliments, which made them more valuable when they came. Around them, the training yard was full of activity. Human instructors worked with Velthari soldiers. The training was intense, pushing the Velthari beyond what they thought possible. Many quit in the first weeks, but those who stayed became something new, something stronger. Captain Kethel approached, moving with the confidence of his new training. "Commander Morrison, Princess Zara, the Emperor requests your presence." The Kryn have sent a diplomatic message. In the throne room, the Emperor sat with his advisors. Human officers stood ready, including Ryan Blake. The atmosphere was tense. On the main screen, a Kryn ambassador appeared. He wore elaborate armor and looked arrogant. "Emperor Thelvas," the Kryn said, "the Kryn Collective offers you terms of surrender. Yield your outer colonies to us and we will not attack your homeworld again." The Emperor's face was calm. 6 months ago, he might have considered such terms, but not anymore. "The Velthari Empire does not surrender. We offer you a different choice. Withdraw from our territory completely or face the consequences." The Kryn ambassador laughed. "You survived one attack. Do not mistake luck for strength. We will return with 10 times the force. Your human allies cannot protect you forever." Jake stepped forward into the view of the screen. The Kryn ambassador recognized him and his laughter died. During the battle, Jake had personally killed over 30 Kryn soldiers. The survivors had spread word about the human warrior who fought like a demon. "I know you," the Kryn said. "You are the one they called the Deathbringer. My name is Commander Jake Morrison, and I have a message for your military leaders. The Velthari are under human protection now. We have destroyed your reputation as unbeatable warriors. If you attack again, we will not just defend. We will hunt. We will find your homeworld. We will bring a war to your people that will make your attack on Veltara Prime look like a playground fight. Test us if you doubt." The Kryn ambassador's face showed anger, but also something else. Fear. "The Collective will not forget this insult, human." "Good. Remember it well. Remember what happens when you attack our allies. Maybe it will make you think twice before starting another war." The screen went dark. The throne room was silent. Then the Emperor spoke. "That was very aggressive, Commander Morrison. You have likely made the Kryn our permanent enemies. They were already your enemies, Your Majesty. I just made them afraid. Fear is more useful than politeness when dealing with bullies." One advisor spoke up nervously. "But what if they do attack again? What if they bring more ships?" Ryan answered this time. "Then they will face not just the Valkyrie, but the entire human fleet that is now stationed in this sector. 15 warships, 3,000 Marines, state-of-the-art weapons. We meant what we said about protection." Over the following weeks, the Kryn made several small probing attacks. Each time, human ships responded with overwhelming force. The Kryn learned quickly that the Velthari were no longer easy prey. After losing 5 warships in failed raids, the Kryn Collective withdrew from the border and requested a ceasefire. The Emperor agreed to peace talks, but from a position of strength. The Velthari had learned the most important lesson. Peace was only possible when you could defend yourself. Weakness invited attack, strength invited respect. The changes spread beyond the military. Velthari society began to value different qualities. Physical fitness became fashionable. Martial arts schools opened across the empire. Young Velthari joined the military in record numbers, inspired by the humans who had saved their world. But not everyone was happy with the changes. One evening, Zara attended a formal dinner with old noble families. The conversation turned to the new alliance. "It is embarrassing," Lady Sevilla said. "We have become dependent on these primitive humans. We who ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The humans saved us," Zara said firmly. "We should be grateful." "Grateful? They have turned our beautiful empire into a military state. Training and weapons everywhere. It is barbaric." "It is necessary," Zara replied. "The Kryn exposed our weakness. The humans showed us how to be strong again. That is not barbaric. That is wise. You only say that because you married one. Tell me, Princess, do you really believe humans are our equals? Or have you been seduced by their primitive charms?" Zara stood, her voice cold. "I believe humans are our equals because they proved it in blood. While we sat in our palaces debating philosophy, they fought for survival against impossible odds. They reached the stars through determination and sacrifice. They are not primitive. They are practical, and I am proud to call myself the wife of a human warrior." The noble ladies gasped at her words, but Zara did not care. She left the dinner early and went to find Jake. She found him on a balcony overlooking the city. He stood alone, as he often did in the evenings. Zara joined him silently. After a moment, Jake spoke. "I heard about your dinner. Word spreads fast in the palace. I suppose I was not very diplomatic." "No, but you were honest." "That is better." They stood together watching the city lights. The capital had been rebuilt with both beauty and practicality. Now there were defensive positions mixed with the gardens. Walls protected the important buildings. The city was still beautiful, but it was also ready. "Do you miss Earth?" Zara asked. "Sometimes, but Earth is just a planet. Home is where you choose to make it." "And have you chosen? Is this home now?" Jake turned to look at her. 6 months had changed them both. Zara was no longer the sheltered princess who married him. She was a warrior in her own right, strong and confident. And Jake, well, he seemed less haunted, as if helping the Velthari had given him a purpose beyond just fighting. "I think I have," Jake said quietly. "I came here thinking this was another mission, another duty to perform, but somewhere along the way it became real. You became real to me, Zara. Not just a princess I was assigned to marry, but a partner, a friend, maybe more than a friend." Zara felt her hearts beat faster. Velthari had 2 hearts and both were racing now. More than a friend? Jake stepped closer. "I know our marriage was arranged. I know neither of us chose this. But if I could choose now, I would choose you. You are brave and strong, and you never give up. You are everything I admire in a person. I have fallen in love with you, Zara. I probably have no right to say that, but it is the truth." Zara reached up and touched his face. "You are not alone in those feelings. I thought humans were primitive savages, but you taught me that strength and honor can exist in the same person. You taught me to fight, but also when to show mercy. You protected my people while respecting our culture. How could I not fall in love with someone like that?" Jake pulled her close and kissed her. It was their first real kiss despite being married for 6 months. When they finally broke apart, both were smiling. "This complicates things," Jake said. "How so?" "Because now I have something to lose, something I care about more than duty or mission. That makes me vulnerable." "Good. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is human." Zara laughed at her own joke. "You have taught me to be strong like a human. Now I will teach you to live like a Velthari, to appreciate peace and beauty, to understand that life is more than just survival. I think I can learn that. But I am warning you, I am not good at peaceful things. I will probably get it wrong. Then we will get it wrong together." They stood on the balcony holding each other as the twin moons rose. Below, the city lived and breathed. Human and Velthari worked together now, building something new, a civilization that valued both strength and culture, both war and peace. In the following months, the alliance between humanity and the Velthari became the foundation of a new coalition. Other species, seeing the strength of their partnership, asked to join. The humans brought military knowledge and fighting spirit. The Velthari brought technology and diplomatic experience. Together, they became something greater than either species alone. Zara and Jake became symbols of this new era. The alien princess and the human warrior, 2 people from different worlds who found common ground. They traveled to other,